All right, let's get into our first topic now, and we're asking, should workers be paid more for going into the office? Get your calls in for this now. Half of young managers want a salary hike in exchange for returning to the office full time. Now, those under 35 are also most likely to push for subsidised travel and free lunches, according to a new study. Around 2/3 of managers of all ages work remotely for at least one day a week. So is it wrong to force them, or any worker for that matter, into the office without paying them more? Dawn?
Oh, it depends on your contract of employment, doesn't it? I mean, basically, if this is coming off the back of the pandemic when people were encouraged to work from home and then they are now refusing to go back to their jobs, they have a contract that states what their hours are and how long they work, and they should stick to that contract. And if their argument is, well, if I come back to the office, it's now going to cost me more, well, by staying home, you're saving money, so how about we deduct some of your wages?
Kevin?
You know, fat cat bosses get chauffeured into work, so why don't we pay the bus fares and the train fares of workers? What I like is the under 35s, the new generation, is challenging what we put up with. I've always just accepted I've got to pay my own way into work. Why not pay me extra to go into work? Because it costs you to go to work.
But wasn't the cost always sort of incorporated in your salary? Yeah. Like, this is how much you'll earn, and you had to do your own maths on whether you could afford that job or you could afford the commute to that job.
You're right, it was. So you paid tax, you paid national insurance, you paid your pensions, and then you had to pay to go to work because it does cost you, whether you're driving or using public transport. Okay, you can cycle, you'd be all right, and then you've got the cost of meals. And I just like this idea that younger people are saying, you want me in the office, you pay for me to come into the office.
But isn't this going to encourage people off their bikes? I mean, you've got a choice now about how you get into your place of work. You could cycle if you wanted to go for the cheaper option. You could get a taxi if you were feeling luxurious. Whereas if the employer's paying, then you would just go for the easiest option every time?
So, some employers do actually pay cycle mileage if you go out on official business business on your bike. MPs can claim it, believe it or not, or I think you would believe it, wouldn't you? But so you could. So if you're gonna say, right, you're gonna have your train fare, or if you cycle 5 miles, you can have 20p a mile or whatever it is. Then you wouldn't discourage people from cycling. But I like the fact the younger generation challenges what older generations just put up with.
It is true, Dawn. Every generation challenges and pushes a little bit more, and is that not just what we're seeing here?
Look, times move on. We all accept that. But I think there is an air of entitlement here. You are being paid to do a job of work. That is what your contract says. You owe it to your employer to do that job. The other side of this, I think, is this working from home thing, that the broader working from home debate is, it's so important to work with your colleagues. I think we all learned during lockdown when we were doing those horrendous Zoom meetings, the actual sort of like the loneliness of working from home, the fact that it's not very good for your mental health. And certainly we're talking about the youngsters, you learn so much more from working with your older and wiser colleagues, obviously present company accepted, but you actually learn from working in a group with people rather than just being isolated at home on your own.
I quite like sitting in my pants working.
Don't talk about your pants.
I only had to shave every other day when I was working from home.
But you don't need to be mentored, Kevin. You don't need to be mentored. No. And, work romances are probably not something you're that concerned about.
Oh, we mentioned that.
You're both right. And I think there is a value going into the office and you're with people and you pick up things just in general, just chit-chat and see how people...
Yes. It's good for your mental health.
The younger generation, they do put a greater emphasis on working from home.
They put a greater emphasis on themselves.
So if you want to try and get them in, particularly in a jobs market where you've got 1 million vacancies, so it's difficult to get people to work, because they can pick and choose, although there are some jobs. I remember getting on a flight. I was going off to Cork in Ireland, and at Heathrow, the pilot said, "You'll be very pleased to know I'm not working from home today." Now, it's kind of...
Yes, actually.
In fact, most people can't work from home. They have to go to work. And the hospitality sector,
and I think that's
or the NHS. I know you can do Zoom
but
GP consultations.
Issue here as well, because we're talking about the cosy middle-class office work. Many working class, traditional working class jobs, you can't do it from home. You can sit working from home, and who's going to deliver your shopping, your home shopping?
So therefore,
empty your bins, etc.
So therefore, that's why I like all those working class people who have to go to the workplace will get paid extra to go into work. While all those middle-class people you mentioned in their leafy suburbs, they won't get the extra cash because they're at home. So it's a good bonus for the working class.
But if you're a working-class person, you are paid to do that job. That is your job. That is your job contract. You go and do it.
Yeah, but you can argue now. Why should it all be one way? Why should it all be one way? And
Kevin,
you're not a slave.
Shut up, Kevin. Stop talking.
No, I hear what you're saying there, that you're glad that people that have to go into work will get paid more. I'm not sure that that's how this will work. I think it will be in order to encourage people back into the office and back into places where they don't necessarily need to be. If you're a nurse or you're a plumber, I don't think you're going to be paid extra for turning up to do your shift. Terry from Kent, what's your thoughts on this? Do you think that we should encourage people back into the office by paying them more?
Well, the thing is, people working from home have got advantage. I used to get up at like 4:30 in the morning, leave my house at 5 o'clock, travel to work, start work at 6, do a 12-hour shift. And some nights, because I live where I do in Kent, I wasn't getting into like 9, 10 o'clock at night. Then going to bed and getting up and doing the same next day. So if you're going to do something like that, there's thousands of people like me, like yourself, who get up early in the morning. So shouldn't we be giving extra money?
Well, Terry, can I ask what it is that you did or do?
I used to work at Gatwick Airport. I live in Kent on top of North Downs. So I was getting up at 4:30.
I mean, Terry, it's a shift and a half that you did. But the argument against that would be you chose to do that job. You chose to take the salary they were offering you, and you knew how long your commute was going to be.
So are you saying that people who going to work, like bus drivers, lorry drivers, can change their jobs to do something else? You've got to have a certain amount of people doing manageable jobs and not office work.
Terry, I agree with you. Look, the hardest job I ever did was a security guard, 12-hour shifts. I'd get up, go to work, come home, have my tea, go to bed, get up, go to work, and it was terrible. It was low pay. And I think one of the problems in the jobs market is all the extra payments, like shift payments, payments for working early, for working late, for working weekends, working Sundays, working bank holidays. They've all gone. And I agree. I think you almost certainly should be better paid. But what I like is younger people are now challenging employers and say, well, if you want me, you've got to entice me in. That's got to be good for us all. It's got to be good for you as well.
Wouldn't that be a better place to start rather than, oh, you'll have to pay me for coming into the office? Maybe the better place for younger people to start is actually, I want a bit extra money if you want me to work outside the normal hours, or I want a bit extra money if you're going to ask me to do a 12-hour double shift, rather than pay me to come into the office, because actually there might be hidden benefits to going into the office, particularly if you're a younger person.
Yeah, I think there are, but this is all just about now. Instead of just having to do what you're told, and if your employer says jump, you have to say how high. I just like the fact people are pushing back.
Kicking back. Okay, Terry, thank you very much for your call. Tasha from London, what's your views on this? Do you think this is young people just being a bit selfish or actually good for them?
Hi. So I feel like young people nowadays, it's a bit unfair because most companies have removed London weighing. So we end up paying more money to travel into the office than our peers outside of London.
But for example, the argument is you chose to move to London maybe because of ambition, maybe because of job opportunities, but it was a choice.
But the benchmark is even less now. Because if I live outside of London, I pay less rent and less everything, and the costs are less. But in London, for me to go 5 stops, I'm paying like nearly £20 just for the journey, whereas my colleague can put £20 petrol to go to the office for the whole week.
Yeah, but again, Tasha, I'm going to go back to the fact that you have picked a job in London and therefore you would have known that the commute was going to be more expensive. That's the counter-argument to that, isn't it? An employer is going to say it's not my responsibility where you decide to live.
I mean, currently I've been working from home since 2020 and now suddenly they want us to go back to the office.
Well, this is the other thing, isn't it? Is that actually for a lot of young people, the majority of their working life has been working from home for reasons that are out of their control. And actually what it's going to feel like to them, Dawn, is that their employer is changing the script on them. 1 minute for the last 3 years, let's say, it was absolutely acceptable. In fact, demanded that they work from home. So they had to, you know, get their computers in, get their specialist chairs in, put the heating on, do all of that sort of thing. And now all of a sudden their employer's like, no, you need to come back in Monday to Friday.
Yeah, because it wasn't the employer's responsibility that there was the lockdown and you were literally forced to stay at home for most of that time. That's not the employer's fault. And you have a contract. And speaking of someone that did employ young journalists,
Hold on, Tasha.
Speaking of someone that did employ young journalists, there is the employer looking at people and going, hold on a minute, you're not willing to go that extra mile. I'm going to be less likely, quite literally, to employ you rather than someone that is keen and ambitious and willing to do that extra bit.
Sorry, you wanted to come back in there, Tasha?
Hi, yeah, I was going to say, initially when I applied to work where I work, they used to pay you land and weighing to travel to the office.
Yes.
And by 2022, they have removed that. So now I'm on a home contract and I want me to go into the office, meaning that they removed the £3,000 land and weighing I would have been entitled to.
I see, but then they still want you to come into the office.
Yes, but I can't claim back the expenses. Well, that's what's happened to a lot of companies. They removed land and weighing.
That's interesting. Tasha, I mean, a very specific problem for those working in London, and obviously not everybody will be experiencing that, but that is a change in contract, presumably.
It is, and if they give you notice, Tasha, sadly, it'll be legal. I'm not sure it should be legal, because you've been shortchanged.
But Tasha, definitely take that up with your employer. Thank you very much for your call, though. Simon on Twitter says, why should working in an office mean more pay than someone who doesn't? They're all doing the same job regardless of the environment. Raphael on Facebook says, there's a cost of living crisis. If employers can't afford labour, they shouldn't force their employees to spend their money and time they don't have to commute into work. Arguably, I think quite a lot of statistics say that people are working longer hours from home because they're getting up at the same time and using that commute time to work, allegedly.
It is working from home. You're working. I think look, people who skive at home or in the office. You know, they are. We all know.
This is true.
But who they are. People will have colleagues who are like that.
We're going to go back to the phones now and speak to Kyra from London. Kyra, what's your thoughts on this? Should you get paid more to get into the office?
Well, I am paid more to go into the office. I get my commute paid on top of my salary, which I think is great. And if companies can do that, then I think they should pay for their employees to come into the office.
Is it paid, do you mind me asking, separately to your wage? As in, does it come in as like a bonus or a separate payment?
It comes in as a separate payment. I have to just enroll for the commuter allowance, and then that commuter allowance is added on top of my salary every single month. So I don't ever have to pay for my commute into work.
Kyra, can I be nosy? Two things. One, are you taxed and national insurance on that? And secondly, what type of company is it? Because if your company can do it, I just wonder why more don't.
It's tech. I work in tech. Obviously, I would advise lots of people to work in the tech industry. We get lots of benefits, and yeah, I don't have to worry about paying for my commute. I work in a hybrid office. I don't actually have to go into my office, but I choose to go in every day.
Kyra, well, that's interesting. So you don't have to go into your office, and yet you're still paid money to commute if you want to. Yeah. And also, presumably with tech, I mean, as somebody that's not very good with tech, that would be one job that you would be able to work from home with.
Yeah, of course. I mean, lots of tech jobs you can work from home. But I think there's a whole movement of people now, young people, who don't want to work from home because it's not social. And I personally feel like I prefer to be in the office. So I feel very lucky that my company will pay for my travel and I get to go into my office and see my colleagues. And yeah.
By the sounds of the calls that we're getting in, you are very lucky. I'm going to be a bit naughty now and ask, are you supposed to be working now?
I'm ill. I've got the flu.
Ah, nice.
You can hear it. You can hear it, can't you?
Yeah, I can. I can hear it's a bit stuffy there. You didn't have to ham it up for us, Kyra, but I'm sure you're not. I wish you all the best. I hope you get well soon. But your job does sound fabulous. Unfortunately, not everybody is as lucky as you, Kyra. Thank you for all your calls on this.